Explorers crawled into a tunnel nearly 1,000 feet long, just as wide as a laptop screen. No way to turn back. A few hours later, a flash flood swept in and turned the cave into the deadliest caving disaster in British history. What really happened in that darkness? This is a true story. The Mossdale Cave Tragedy. June 24, 1967. Yorkshire Dales, Northern England. Mossdale Caverns, one of the most treacherous and flood-prone cave systems in the UK. A place of incomplete maps and constant risk. Leading the group was 26-year-old David Adamson. With him were his close friend Jeff Borrow and his fiancée, Morag Forbes. This was a mission to defy the unknown. They came to conquer the unexplored, to push deeper where no one else dared. But this time, Mossdale was ready to fight back. 2:30 p.m., David led the entire group into Mossdale Caverns. The entrance was nothing more than a slit in the ground. From the very start, the journey was brutal. They crawled through narrow rock passages, slick with freezing mud. Water seeped through every layer of clothing. The space was just wide enough for a single body to squeeze through. Every inch forward meant holding their breath just a little tighter. After more than an hour, they reached the rough chamber, a wide-open space deep inside the cave. Here, Morag Forbes and 3 others made their choice. They turned back. The remaining 6 pressed on, deeper into the earth. No one knew. That moment had just drawn the line between life and death. 5 p.m. The 4 who turned back made it to the surface. Soaked clothes, mud-covered faces. The sky was overcast, a few light raindrops had begun to fall. No one paid much attention. It all felt just like any other trip. The remaining 6 continued deeper underground. Along with David and Jeff were Colin Vicker, John Ogden, Bill Frakes, and Michael Ryan, just 17, the youngest of the group. They were headed into the Far Marathon Passage, a tunnel no one had ever fully explored. It stretched nearly 900 feet long, just 18 inches high, 12 inches wide, roughly the size of a computer screen. No turning around, no twisting your body, no way back. Once inside, you were committed, for at least an hour. One by one, they crawled in, spaced just a few feet apart. Mud, loose rocks, groundwater dripping into the tunnel floor. Their headlamps shimmered faintly off the shallow pools collecting beneath their chests. That's when David noticed it. The water flow was stronger than usual. Not alarming, not yet. So they pushed on, until they reached the final squeeze at the end of Far Marathon, the section they planned to clear for future mapping. But now, deep inside the cave, something changed. The water started rising fast, and with his experience, David knew immediately something was happening on the surface, and they were at least 3 hours from the entrance. No more time, no room for hesitation. David signaled the retreat. One by one, they turned around and began crawling back. At the same time, outside, the skies opened up. Rain began pouring down in sheets. Water rushed down the hillside, spilled over the rocks, and surged straight into the cave. The groundwater rose fast, and inside the cave, no one knew what was coming. 9 p.m. Morag Forbes returned to the entrance, waiting for David. But what she found? The cave had vanished. The entire opening was buried under floodwater. Not a single crack remained, just a swirling mass of black water churning in the dark. She screamed, then ran, desperate to get help. Inside, the flood began, rising with brutal force. The team tried to crawl back, but the only way out was Far Marathon. The same narrow tunnel they'd just come through. One way, cramped. Now it had become a flooded death trap. Jeff Borrow and Michael Ryan were in the lead. Within minutes, the water had reached their shoulders, then their heads. They tried to tilt their faces upward, searching for air, hoping for even a sliver of space between the water and the cave roof. But there was nothing, no high pockets, only cold stone and rising water. They suffocated, inside a crack less than 18 inches wide. Behind them, the remaining 4 tried to crawl against the flow. Thick mud, rushing water, no visibility, only darkness and slick rock. John Ogden was last in line. He spotted a narrow gap above. In a split second, he shoved his body upward, jammed his head into the crack, and stole one final breath. Outside, rescue teams were already mobilizing. The Upper Wharfdale Fell Rescue Association, together with the Cave Rescue Organization, gathered over 300 volunteers. All of them rushed to Mossdale through the night. The cave entrance was buried under nearly 4 feet of water. Rescuers had to dig trenches, build makeshift dams to divert the flood. Massive pumps were hauled in. They ran all night, nonstop. By Sunday morning, the water finally began to fall. A small team went in. They followed the same route the cavers had taken just a day earlier. As they neared the end of Far Marathon, they found the first 2 bodies, Jeff Borrow and Michael Ryan, wedged in the narrow passage, their upper bodies still sticking out. No signs of trauma, frozen in the dark. They had suffocated. 3 more were found nearby, same position, lying on their sides, heads tilted upward, as if searching for the last inch of air. But there was every breath stolen. The last body, John Ogden, wasn't found for another 2 days. He had wedged himself deep inside a narrow crack. Maybe he thought he could survive there. Maybe he believed he'd find one more breath. But it wasn't enough. There was no miracle. All 6 men were gone. But even after the bodies were found, one question remained. How would they bring them out? Even with the water receded, the cave was still too dangerous. Some argued they had to retrieve the bodies at any cost. But in the end, the decision was made. Leave them. Seal the cave. Let Mossdale Caverns become a natural tomb. 3 years later, in 1971, friends of the victims returned to the cave. Not to bring anyone out, just to move the bodies to a higher chamber. They named the place the Sanctuary, a resting place, deep within the cave that had taken them. After the tragedy, Mossdale was permanently closed. No one is allowed back in. The Mossdale tragedy left behind a simple lesson. Never underestimate the weather. Never enter an unmapped system without caution. And if the path ahead is one way, make sure you have time to come back. Would you crawl into a tunnel, barely wider than a laptop, knowing that a single rainstorm could seal every exit behind you? And what do you think about the decision to leave them there forever?